This episode is brought to you by the Wholesome Fertility Method online program. This program includes video courses on understanding Chinese medicine patterns and how this reflects on cycle charting. It also includes foods shown to benefit fertility health, which products to avoid, supplements and herbs that are shown to improve sperm and egg quality, acupressure points, and essential oil recipes to optimize fertility health, mindfulness, breathing exercises, and much, much more. I'm providing a second round of spots, which include live coaching calls with the program for a limited time. To find out more, visit www.thewholesomefertilitymethod.com. Episode number 42 of the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. Welcome to the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. I'm Michelle, a fertility acupuncturist here to provide you with resources on how to create a wholesome approach to your fertility journey. My guest today is Monica Reyes. Monica Reyes is someone that I know personally, and she is the epitome of empowerment. She hasn't gone through fertility challenges, and she's not a fertility expert. However, I really wanted her to come on because she has her own story of challenges and she's gone through incredible transformations. And I feel that her work and her voice is so empowering that I felt compelled to have her on the podcast for many to hear. Monica is a dynamic speaker and activist for compassion, guiding and empowering leaders towards self-awareness, spiritual awareness, and purpose. She bridges ancient spiritual principles with the latest in science and braids it into digestible and practical ideas. She is a certified Kundalini Yoga instructor, a Psychosynthesis life coach, and an attorney who left her fruitful practice to answer her soul's call for more. Her background allows her to easily integrate her teachings into the corporate and athletic setting. She is a TEDx speaker and has spoken in front of audiences ranging from small venues to tens of thousands in all demographics and purposes with her message. When she is not trying to change the world, she's enjoying her beautiful growing family, reading, researching, and studying cutting-edge practices to help her clients continue to grow. Welcome to the podcast, Monica.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So we've known each other for a long time, and I'm really happy to have you on because I personally feel like you're such an inspiration, and you're like the perfect example of rewriting your life. Can you share your journey with the listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am an attorney. And I didn't actually go to college or go to school. Being an attorney wasn't something that I planned for. It wasn't something I dreamt of. In fact, I grew up wanting to be an astronaut. I wanted to be an archaeologist. And somewhere along the way, I was told that it wasn't practical. It wasn't going to make me money. And so I continued on the path through science. I was pre-med and realized that I didn't want to spend my entire life in a lab coat. And it just wasn't, I could feel it, there was a misalignment. So I took some time off, and my mother, I started to get depressed because I lost direction, I lost purpose. And so she signed me up for this test called the LSAT. And I didn't really know what that was. I didn't know anything about it, but I ended up doing pretty well because it was problem solving, and I'm a natural problem solver. And there you go. I was off to law school. And what saved me was working with this boutique of two women. And I ended up finding passion in the law. So I stayed there, ended up becoming an entrepreneur several years later. And it grew fairly large, bigger than I ever imagined. And at some point I was like, wow, I finally made it. I'm so happy. And I did. I felt satisfied. I was happy. We had a beautiful culture. We had 40 beautiful women working for us. It was a really, really amazing time in my life. I learned so much. and so much about myself. We had such amazing mentors and coaches. And then I was meditating at the time because of my daughter. She was really my catalyst as I got pregnant in 2012. And the more that I meditated, the more aware I became, and I started to just become aware of my own feelings and sensations and realize that I wasn't happy and that I was living somebody else's life. I was living a life that, all of the expectations and just, I was really afraid of leaving everything that I'd worked really hard for. I'd invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in my law degree. All of it. But this voice just got louder and louder and louder. And at some point I was like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. But what should I do? Simultaneously, I was super fascinated by everything to do with mysticism, with ancient wisdom, with modern science and energy. And so I just I read everything I could get a hold of. I ended up becoming a Kundalini Yoga instructor, which was incredibly transformative for me. And I started teaching classes, not to become a teacher, just because I was so excited about what I had learned that I needed to share it with everybody. I shared it with everybody in my law firm. I shared it with everybody that I met in every networking event possible, and started to find myself coaching and just giving advice and guiding, and realized that I was good at it and I actually loved it and enjoyed it. And so in 2015, I officially, after a whole year of deliberation, left my law firm and started my company as a coach, as an advisor, as a speaker. And I've been doing that ever since. I've worked with really amazing companies and corporations. I've worked with really beautiful people. I've spoken on some amazing stages. And that brings us to the present day.
And I know that you have had some really, really, really tough moments in your life. You've been able to somehow overcome something that I think a lot of people may not be able to. Can you share some of those really, really hard challenges?
Yes. So one of the I would say that what comes to mind is when I was in law school, my father, my biological father, who recently passed away in May. He was really just not in my life, wasn't in my life for the majority of my life, and which led me to believe that I was not lovable. So I, for a long time, just really sought love from a boyfriend, from a partner, from all of these external sources, never realizing until later in my journey that I could provide myself all of the love that I needed. And so I jumped into a couple relationships, one of them where somebody was simultaneously seeing another girl at the time while he was seeing me, which was really, I was super, it was like my heart was broken. And I was in law school when this happened. And as I was recovering from that, I met this friend, this guy that was hanging out in our circles at the time. And I knew that I didn't want to be with anybody because I was still struggling and getting over all of that past relationship. But he was super persistent, and he was really nice. He was really nice and persistent. And eventually I caved. It started off as just dinner. And then from there, I was hanging out with him more often. And I'd see a little red flag here and there. Every time he'd drink, he'd get maybe like a little loud, but nothing at all. Really, it was actually very, very pleasant. And so I think I was just lonely, and again, just wanting, and he really gave me a lot of, he cared for me and really took care of me in like a very caring kind of way. And so I eventually started dating him. I ended up dating him for about a year and a half. And during that time, he started to really show his true colors. And what kept me there was my deep compassion for him, my empathy, because he had been through his own abuse as a young boy. And I really felt I really felt for him. And maybe a part of me thought that I could help him or save him. A part of me was afraid to leave. A part of me felt bad. But he ended up being very emotionally abusive, sometimes physically abusive. And every time he'd drink, he'd get out of hand. He threatened to kill himself multiple times. He tried to kill him. He pretended to, to carve at his wrists in front of all my friends one day. It was really, really just like traumatic. And I knew that, I wanted to leave, but I wasn't sure how. I wasn't telling my mother because I knew she'd flip out. And eventually she told me one day. I went to go see her because I was living in my apartment in Orlando, and she told me, the light has left your eyes. Why? What's wrong? And so I told her, and, she immediately, like, as the amazing mother that she is, into full protection mode and, helped me. She brought me to a therapist who I saw for three or 4 months, who helped me resolve, helped me to deal with the feelings, helped me to leave, helped me to get out. I broke up with him. And a weekend later, he died. And he ended up getting into a really bad car accident. But I know that he had been under the influence of alcohol. And so it was a really, really hard moment for me. And for a long time, I was still, not feeling worthy. I felt a sense of major guilt. I felt, all of those things. And I could have stayed in that mode of victim. I could have stayed in that feeling of, but I ended up packing my bags and moving to Miami. It led me to a whole year of, honestly, of partying. I completely let go. I was in this like state of numbing for a whole entire year of alcohol, of just, like trying to numb myself. And at some point when I turned 30, which happened shortly after, it's something switched, something clicked. And, but there was this beautiful gift though, that I was given from that relationship, because I had lost my connection to God along the way in college. And we would go to church together, this non-denominational, beautiful church that I'd never been to before because I was so used to Catholicism. And it really opened my eyes. And I actually started a relationship with the universe because of him. And it was really beautiful. This is when I started to realize synchronicities. This is when I started to read about Deepak Chopra. This is when I started to see these signs. And I felt like I might have had a spiritual awakening because of this relationship. And it obviously, on the way up, I became stronger. I became more resilient. And because of the experience, it allows me now to connect deeply with women in just such a beautiful, different way. So I can totally see why it happened in my journey, and I can appreciate it.
What I love about this story is how you've taken something that could have otherwise really changed the course of your life in a negative way and used it to catapult you into a stronger version of yourself, a more enlightened, more aware person, and also increase compassion. And the reason I feel, you don't necessarily have a fertility story, and this is a fertility podcast, but the reason I feel like your story and just how you live your life and empower women, I feel like it's such a great example, because in the end of the day, challenges are challenges. You could look at the specific details of what brought us to that point, but in the end of the day, we all get defeated and we all feel moments of hopelessness and moments of what the hell do I do now? And just to see that did have those moments. You had like a good year where you just released it however it was, and it was haphazardly through drinking and just whatever it was that kind of like self-medication. And you did go through that time, but the way that I see you living today is so conscious. And I feel that sometimes those challenges make you even more conscious and more bright of a light than you would have been had you not gone through those dark times.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right on point. And there was during that time of forgiveness and understanding and appreciation with those, in the challenges of my life, is this realization that we're on a journey. We're on a spiritual journey. And this journey that we're on, every ingredient, every challenge, every triumph, every single moment, every particle of your life is on purpose, no mistakes, no coincidences. And so if I can look at it from that lens, then I can appreciate it and see and understand why I chose that event to happen in my life, and see, all right, this is what I gained from it and how it prepared me then for the next moment, why it was a necessary thing, why it was necessary at that moment, at that time, in that way, from that person, so that I can understand. And when you can see things in that way, it releases the resistance, it releases the suffering, it releases the struggle, and you can appreciate it. And you become way more conscious, way more intentional, and less attached.
Mm-hmm. Right. There's a really great saying or quote by Eckhart Tolle to perceive every moment in your life as if you've designed it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it creates this incredible acceptance.
Yes.
It's pretty amazing. And so one thing that I've noticed about you is that you walk the talk. You inspire, and you have a lot of talks, and you talk to thousands of people. But what I love is that you really truly walk the talk. You take time out of your day, and sometimes you come in and see me, and I was like, how's your morning? And you're like, well, I meditated. And you really do bring that into your life. As busy as you are, as crazy as things can be, and your plate is pretty full. Can you share your routine and how you implement that in such a busy life?
Yes. And it shifts, right? So this idea, so it's just the same way that we see the challenge, right? The way that I see things is like it's basically content, right? It's our relationship to whatever it is. So for instance, the routine. I know that because life is life, I have 2 kids and my plate is full, everything that you've mentioned, that I have the structure. So I have the structure of this routine that I'm going to tell you, but at the same time, I'm not going to get upset over the fact that I can't, maybe, like, for instance, yesterday, my daughter woke up sick, and so things had to shift, things had to change, and therefore I had to skip the routine and I had to do it later, right? So and I was also up all night with my son. So it's having the structure, but then also having the flexibility to go with the flow, and just finding, what can I do now that can provide me with what I need, and then I can get back to my routine later. So my routine, before I even get out of bed, I like to be intentional. I like to open up my eyes. I like to feel into my body. I like to ask myself, like, who am I, right? Who am I? I'm Monica Reyes. Who am I? I'm my higher self. I'm the universe. Who am I being today? And just really coming to mind as to, like a really clear intention as to who I'm stepping into this morning. And so at the very least, I've got that. Sometimes if I need to, I'll bring in some gratitude, but I love to just, instead of rushing out of bed, I like to be present to what is, and also, like, energetically, who am I that I'm stepping into? And then I pretty much cut coffee out of my day. So I will usually grab some tea, and then I head into the office to meditate. And I have, like, a set that I do every morning, which includes, it's basically a combination of breath, a combination of movement, and then some sort of meditation. I usually pull out, like, the Course in Miracles, and just, take a look and read some sort of whatever it is that that I need today. I usually just kind of open up the page, and then I journal. I'm right now, in this moment, I'm doing a course called The Artist's Way. And so it's basically uncovering the creativity within you. So I'm doing the morning pages.
Is it by Julia Cameron? It's a course for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I've added my morning pages to my morning. And then from there, but I don't start my day until I've done some sort of meditation. So that whole thing is about 30 minutes of meditation, and then the morning pages, which takes about 10 to 15 minutes. So But I try not to start my morning before then because I feel a hell of a lot better. The energy organizes itself. It's just so much, I'm just so much more productive. And everything that I need, everybody that I need appears rather than me having to chase. It's just such a different day.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's the weirdest thing. When I first started meditating, that's one of the things that I realized, that not only do I feel different, but people are different with me. And
Mm-hmm.
like the world is different with
Yeah.
me, and the world is a lot more accommodating. And that's one of the first things that I noticed. I'm like, this is cool. I can get used to this. And it really does organize your energy
Mm-hmm.
and clarity. And a lot of women listening to this, they're going to doctors, or they're going through a lot of, especially like the Google trap. You read so many different things and it's information overload. And so it's really beneficial to at least have some time during the day to get quiet. And the morning pages, just for people who haven't heard of it, can you explain how
Yes.
it's kind of like a cleansing the mind
Yes. It's a
in the
cleansing the
morning?
mind. Yes. So it's you write three pages, hand to pen to, not typing, but writing, using a pen and paper. And you just write anything, basically not taking your pen off of the paper, but you just write whatever's on your mind. And it is a cleansing. There is usually insight. So this is what I'm doing now, because that's the actual prescription in the book. For a while, what I was doing was 20 minutes of writing, no pen to paper. And it was just so powerful. What ends up happening is the pen takes over, and all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden you have this beautiful wisdom that's coming out on paper. So it is
Yeah.
a powerful, self-reflection is a powerful practice.
Oh, I love that. That is such a great quote. Self reflection is a powerful practice. It truly is, because I think our minds are so powerful. And when we give it that honor and that respect to reflect, so much comes out.
Yes, so much comes out, and it's actually the way that we build new neural connections is through repetition, new information, and when you self-reflect, you self-contemplate. You create new information. That's like you're contemplating. You get those aha moments, and when you have those aha moments, you create. Those are insights, and you build these new neural connections, a new way of being, new ideas, new ways of seeing. So it is very, very powerful.
Absolutely. So I want to talk about the word transformation, because I feel that a lot of what you do and speak about is transforming. And it's also, I look at your life and I think I mean, that's an example of transformation. So what does the word transformation mean to you?
So, it's when I think of transformation, I think of metamorphosis.
Mm-hmm.
I think of shedding. I think of nature. I think of the caterpillar moving into the butterfly. So there isn't anything that's necessarily lost, right? You're not killing off, and maybe there are parts of you dying, but you're not.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, I feel like, a reorganization, of energy, of the physical, of the emotional. I mean, when I look back at of who I was before, I am a completely different person, not just in like physically, not just emotionally, but I mean everything, the way I am, the way I act, the way I think, the way I feel, the way I show up in the world, and even with people that have been in my life, so with my parents, I'm different. I'm different than I was, and not that, I mean, I'm still like at the core who I am. It's more of like
Mm-hmm.
a refining, and but it's all. And the beautiful thing about transformation is you can do it consciously, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have something radical happen in your life, and that's usually when we wake up, we awaken, and even in that is transformation, because when you have your eyes open, you can no longer unring that bell. You are awake now, and you see
Mm-hmm.
life. You see what the unseen that you haven't seen before. And so,
Right.
um, uh, yeah, so I think that, I lost my thought there. I transformation is something that we all go through, whether it's, like I said, through something radical. But I believe that why wait till something bad happens? Why not consciously evolve? And that's what I believe transformation is. It's really like evolution.
Yeah, evolution. That's a great way to put it. It's us evolving. And what's interesting to me, and one of the reasons that I wanted to speak to you about this is because a lot of people are going through these challenges. And sometimes those challenges, they create almost like an alchemy and an opening for incredible transformation to occur. So I find it very interesting. It's really how you choose to look at it, like in a method of empowering. And I really feel very strongly about sending the message of empowerment. Is it putting awareness as the key to actually transforming something that is so challenging? And when you're in that muck of that, how do you get yourself out of it?
Yeah, I always start with awareness because, let's take somebody that's unaware. They're in the muck, right? So they're fighting the muck, and perhaps they see the muck in a certain way. It's coming from, their past experience. I've been in this muck before. I'm not going to get out easy. This muck sucks. It's smelly, whatever, right? You're judging the muck. You've been here before. You don't think you're going to get out. Now let's add awareness to it. Now all of a sudden you realize, wow, so this muck is also the part of the universe. So I'm not going to resist it. I'm actually going to have compassion here. I'm going to appreciate the muck because as I'm getting out, I know that I'm going to have strength. And I also know that if I'm in the muck, that I'm supposed to be in the muck. So let me just be in the muck for a moment. Let me accept the fact that I'm in the muck. And then once you accept that you're here, now you're calm enough to access solutions and creativity. And you're like, oh my gosh. So wow. So I'm looking around and there's a branch right here that I didn't see before, because I was so stuck in the muck before, and I was struggling and suffering and suffering and stressed out because I was in the muck, and that's where I got stuck. And it wasn't like, the funny thing is it's not the physical stuck, but it's the mental stuck, the emotional stuck. But now that you've cleared all that out and you've accepted it, and now you're understanding that you're supposed to be here, and now there's no resistance. You're not judging it. You're not attached. You're like, if I never get out, I'll be fine, but I know that I will. And now all of a sudden you can see things around you, these opportunities that have always been there that you just simply weren't present to, because you've calmed down, you've accessed the stillness within you, and now you've got this branch that's always been there waiting for you just to grab it, and now you can grab it, and now you're out.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also want to talk about your podcast that you're starting soon. Are you going to start it soon?
Yes, I've actually already started reaching out to people to interview. So yes, I'm starting it soon, probably within the next few weeks. So my podcast is, it's basically about getting to the root of truth, right? What the truth of why we're here. I mean, for my entire life, since I was a little girl, I've always had this philosopher's mind, always asking questions. Why are we here? Which is why I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to see, and I still believe that one day I'll make it out into space. That's a dream of mine.
You know what? I believe you. Based on what I've seen you do so far, I believe you.
I want to experience the galaxies. I want to see space. I think it's just because the fact that I just remember being like, why are we like feeling this mundane, like everyday life of like going to school and all of, yes, okay, great. We're supposed to be here. But then all of a sudden, like thinking, wow, like we're on a planet and there's a moon and there are these galaxies and there's a space, like, being present to all of that at the same time. It used to make me feel like, why are we not like it just was such a paradox of living in this everyday life, and then but also having this other idea of like how alien we are, and and evolution and everything, so I couldn't help but ask these questions. So I still have that within me, which is what drives me to I'm such a ravenous learner, and I'm constantly learning, and even with clients, just seeing every moment as an opportunity to uncover, and I still have that archaeologist within me. So that's what I want to do, is I want to, because I feel like this whole idea of energy and spirituality and who we really are is not, it's not as mainstream as it should be. I feel like this should be common knowledge, right? So, and so I'm out to prove it, right? The attorney in me is out to prove it. The attorney in me is out to discover, to uncover, to excavate the truth. I'm going to bring in top scientists with all different experiments, bringing in the science, I want to, you know, bring in the woo woo and just like, and uncover it. What is this really? So that people can have one place to like really learn and experience and really discover why we are here, why we exist, and from the mouths of the people that study it.
Oh, amazing. I can't wait for that to come out. I'll be all over it. You know, I love the fact that you're talking about bringing in scientists and people who have actually discovered it, because science is actually showing a lot of these things and proving a lot of the things that basically all these things that they've been denying for so many years are now actually being proven. You know, it's being proven that everything matters energy, and that our consciousness and our awareness can change that energy in quantum physics. And do you think it's great that we're actually getting to that point, and maybe we can kind of come to this time of life and catch up to this century, you know? And evolve.
Well, and it's not a part of the school system. Absolutely. But if this is truth, if this is really what's going on and we have this power, like, why are we not teaching our kids this? Like, why did I learn this in my 30s through my own experience?
Right.
So, and this is this is the sort of things I'm teaching my daughter, because I mean, holy moly, if she can have this power now and she's understanding what it is now, then I can only imagine what she'll be in my age.
Exactly.
But I feel like, why isn't it there? You know, so this, and it's a fundamental part of who we are and the reality that we live in. It just doesn't make sense. So that's exactly what I'm out to do.
Yeah. And I always found it interesting that we really don't know ourselves as humans. It's a mystery. Everybody will tell you that. We don't know.
Yes.
We don't know why we have this extra
all of it,
gene.
even our bodies, everything. Yes, everything. And this is exactly it. It's like, I'm just following my curiosity, and even just talking about it really excites me, because I'm going to be learning along with it. So all of that.
Well, I'll be learning along with you, because I'll be listening and following every single one. That's great. So I know that empowering women has been a consistent intention in your work. Is there something that you can share with women who are going through fertility challenges right now and listening, and may be experiencing loss of hope?
Yes. So what I would just invite you, I would invite these women to just, first off, just be with exactly where you are, right? And just accept, and it's that's probably the hardest part, is going to be like, it's like a surrender, right? Okay, this is where I am right now. I'm experiencing this situation. And so let me just surrender. And so that would be the first thing that I would say. And so surrendering to what? Surrendering to what is. Why would I surrender to what is? And so I would invite you to, and this is what I kind of do pretty much in everything that I do, because it's just such a way in, is to close your eyes and just follow your breath, right? And just notice your breath, follow your breath, and just notice how your chest is rising and falling. And as you do that, noticing the natural rhythm of your breath, that you don't have to do anything. You don't have to make yourself breathe. You don't have to do anything whatsoever. And there is this natural intelligence within you that just takes over. This same natural intelligence keeps you digesting your food. It keeps it renewing all of your cells. It's keeping all of your bodily systems working and in order. It's what keeps the sun rising and setting. It's what is, orbiting the earth in this moment. It's responsible for everything. And so this natural intelligence is with you, and it is who you are. And so just trusting in that, surrendering and trusting in this natural rhythm, and allowing it to take you, surrendering to the timing, just, setting the intention of knowing and believing and touching and tasting like the experience that you want this baby, you're experiencing this baby, but also realizing that this is a journey and that maybe there's something that needs to happen before you get what you want, and just trusting in that. And I'm not saying like sitting back and not doing anything about it, like continue to do it, continue to show the universe that you're serious, continue to show the universe that this is what you want, but it's the feeling, it's the experience that you have around it, right? With such trust, such surrender, such acceptance, such love, such faith, while you're doing all of this, rather than fear, rather than worry, rather than, oh my God, I'm not going to do this, panic, desperation, right? All of those feelings, like that's telling the universe the opposite, right? It's all about how you feel. It's your relationship to your situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're feeling like, oh, I'm not going to, I would start there. Start with how you feel about your fertility challenges. And when you can become more neutral about how you feel about it, something will click, something will switch, because now all of a sudden there's no resistance, there's not this attachment. That's where I would start.
Yeah, and I imagine the morning pages would be a really great way to just release and acknowledge and validate and kind of take out, cleanse, and then just be with it. Like this is
Yes.
what is happening right now.
Yes. And it doesn't mean that it won't change, right? You can have the faith, but it's really about how you are in this present moment. That's why also I love Kundalini Yoga, because Kundalini Yoga is such a cleansing, it moves energy. I've experienced such immense healing. There was actually a woman who was, this older woman. I used to teach this 4 a.m. class for a couple of years, and she came with her daughters, and she was very sick. She started off, they did a 40-day sadhana, which is 40 days of this 4 a.m. class. And so she started off in a wheelchair. They had to carry her in. It was really, could barely move. And every single day she showed up at 4 a.m. for this 2.5-hour class. She could, first could barely move her arms. And then you could see just a little bit more movement, a little bit more color in her face. And by the end of the 40 days, she was walking. She was up.
God.
She did not have a wheelchair. It was the most miraculous thing I've ever seen in my life. And that moment was when I knew the power of this work. I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible.
That's incredible. Yeah. That is such a beautiful, hopeful story. And if that's not hope, I don't know what is. And I will say too, is that a lot of fertility yoga teachers encompass Kundalini, because it moves so much of the energy. It really awakens the energy at the base of the spine, which is so connected to the area of the uterus. And it's life-giving, really. It's taking the earth life-giving energy and flowing it up through your body. And so I love your stories, and I love what you're saying. And it really comes down to the fact that challenges are challenges, no matter how they come and what they look like. And you're such an inspiration in how you were able to overcome your challenges and your trauma and grief and really turn it around. And I do believe that sometimes going through that makes us a lot more compassionate and makes us better teachers. I've seen some incredible healers start out as patients. So on that note, where can people find you?
So you can find me. I have my website, www.monicaereyes.com. You can find me on social media. Monica E. Reyes is my Instagram, and I am Monica Reyes is my Facebook. And if you're in the South Florida area, I have an event for mothers to be coming up. But I'm all around. I'm everywhere. You can find me at workshops. You can find me at events. But usually, if you just check my social media or my webpage, you can find everything out.
And what is the name of your podcast?
It's going to be called Breaking Truth.
Ooh, I love that. That's great. Awesome. It's like breaking ground. That's awesome.
Yes, breaking through, breaking ground, breaking news.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Jen, you know what's interesting? I saw there is a character, Monica Reyes. I didn't know that until I tried checking really quick. Yes. It's pretty cool. So thank you so much for coming on. It was great to have a really good friend on the podcast, and I'm sure many people are going to be inspired by your story, which is one of the reasons that I felt so compelled to have you on. And I thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So that concludes today's episode. You can find all the links mentioned on the episode notes. If you're enjoying these episodes, please take a moment to leave a review. Reviews are everything to podcasters. You can find me on my website at www.thewholesomelotus.com. And please be on the lookout for my online course and program. This course has emerged from everything that I've been using for the fertility program I now offer at my office. I wanted to consolidate all of my suggestions and coaching and put it into a form that anyone can purchase and use. It was important for me to encompass key fertility health factors as well as guide you in implementing changes in your routine that are shown to boost fertility while being realistic and user-friendly. I will be offering this course with and without coaching. If you're interested and want updates as well as a free ebook on my top 10 fertility boosting habits, you can visit my fertility page on www.thewholesomelotus.com, where you can find the subscription form. I thank you so much for listening in and hope you have a beautiful day